Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of My Child, My Voice Kid Connection Show. My name is Miss Wendy. The show is brought to you by the National Parents Union. Today, I am so excited to talk about this story because there is a celebration that's happening this week, and it's called the Three Kings Day. So this is the reason why I picked this book for the book of the day, which is the story of the three wise kings. I had kinds by Tome de Paola. Let me hide that. But the Three Kings is a celebration that I know in my family and many other families in Latin countries that celebrate the Three Kings Day. And then we're not going to quite have a craft for today. We're going to talk a little bit of why we celebrate the Three Kings Day and what we do during that celebration. Because I know in my family, we do that as well, and talk about some traditions that we have. And I wanted to share them all with you. And hopefully you can share some of your traditions that you do either before or after Christmas. So first of all, I wanted to say Feliz Año Nuevo, Happy New Year. And let's get started with story time. I'm going to hide myself a little bit and then show the story time so that we can talk about the book of the day, which, as I had mentioned, is the story of the Three Wise Kings by Tome de Paola. So I'm going to put my book down and then I'm going to hide myself so that we can get started on our story of the day. Just give me a few minutes, trying to adjust the screen so you can see the book. And I'm just trying to make it bigger so that you can see. Okay, so the story of the Three Wise King, retold and illustrated by Tome de Paola. Love the pictures here. A word about the kings. This is what I like about this, is it tells you a little bit behind a story. So I'm going to read this to you before we start our story time. The first written word about the kings appeared in the Gospel of St. Matthew's. His brief account tells of wise men who went to Bethlehem to honor the child who would become king of the Jews. Matthew does not give them their names, nor does he say how many wise men there were. His only mention as to where they came from is that they followed a star from the east. Get that? They followed the star from the east. Wow. Over the centuries, details about the wise men were added gradually. In the 2nd century, they were transformed into kings and their numbers were determined. Early art from that period shows 2 and 4 figures, but 3 figures were used most often and persistent into later centuries because Matthew had referred to 3 gifts. By the 8th century, each of the kings had a name, an area from which he came, and a physical description. Melchior of Arabia was depicted as the old man, Jasper of Thesaurus as young, and Balthazar of Saba was shown as middle-aged. The Feast of the Three Kings, called the Feast of the Epiphany, is celebrated on January 6, 12 days after Christmas. In some countries, this is the day on which gifts are given. In this book, I have chosen to paint the mother and the child in the tradition pose referred to the seat of wisdom, throne of justice. This pose was frequently used in Romantic paintings in the adoration of the kings. So that's a word about the kings. And now let's get started with our story time. Long ago in the East, in the lands far from one another, there lived 3 kings, Melchior of Arabia, Jasper of Thesaurus, and Balthazar of Saba. These wise men studied the stars. Each night they looked at the stars and wrote down where the stars were, where they had came from, and where they were going. Look how each one of them is doing that. One night, a star they had never seen before appeared in the sky. Each of the kings consulted his books and found that the new star was the sign of a great king was about to be born. Look at them looking at their books and look at that beautiful star shining in the sky. So each king, not knowing about the others, set out to follow the star, to find the child king and to honor him. And each carried with him a gift. Alcor took gold, jasper, frankincense, and Balthazar myrrh. You see each one carrying a gift. One by boat, which is by sea, one by land on a horse, and another one walking. After many days and nights, the three kings met. They found that they were all following the same star. So they continued their journey together. But as they came near to Jerusalem, they lost sight of the star and they did not know which way to go. "Let us ask at the palace of King Herod," one of them said. "Surely Herod would know the birth of another great king." "Where is he that has been born to be the king of the Jews?" they asked. "We have seen the star in the east, and we have come to honor him." See, the three kings are speaking to King Herod, which is on the right. Now Herod, who was an evil man, was disturbed when he heard this. He wished to be the only king in the land. He went to his chief priest and learned men and asked them where this child would be born. "It has been written at Bethlehem in Judea," they told him. Herod sent for the three kings. "Go to Bethlehem and find all about the king child," he said. "And when you have found him, come back and tell me so I may worship him too." The three wise kings set out for Bethlehem, not knowing that Herod wanted to destroy the newborn baby. And there in the sky, once again, was the star. See the star in the sky? They followed it until it stopped over the place where the child was born. Like a flame of fire, the star pointed out God, the King of Kings. And going into the place, they saw the child with his mother, Mary, and falling down on their knees, they honored him. Then they opened their treasures and offered the gift of gold and frankincense and myrrh. And there's Mary with Jesus. Beautiful. That night, as the king slept, they were warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, for he wished to destroy the child. You see the angels? They were speaking to them in their dreams. So the three kings, to keep Herod from finding the child, returned to their countries by a different way. And that is the end of our story time. I hope you enjoyed watching or listening and watching the story of the three wise kings. I'm going to bring myself back. Hi. And I'm going to remove the story time book. Hi, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the story of the three wise kings. This is something I grew up with when I was a kid, and I really did enjoy this. And I know you want to learn more about, why we celebrate. If you ever heard of the Three Kings Day, in different Latin countries, they celebrate this. And we're going to talk a little bit more and then how we celebrate it and why we celebrate it. And what are the traditions we do on the Three Kings Day? Now, that's the reason why I didn't want to do a craft today, because there's so many things that we do during the Three Kings Day. One of the things is most children will get a shoebox, put some grass in the shoebox and put it underneath their bed. And then they know that the three kings will come visit them. Now I'm going to go a little bit into that. But before I do, I wanted to show you what we called Rosca de Reyes, which is the king's cake. I know I have my lights on, so you kind of see a glare, but this is what it looks like. I haven't opened mine yet, and I'll tell you why we have this Three Kings cake. Now, this one I have, it has caramel in the middle of it, but there's something special about the Three Kings cake. Why is it round? Why do they have the dry fruit on it? And there's a surprise within the cake. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that so that you understand what my traditions were and other people's tradition as well. And I hope you can share your traditions with us and what you do either before, after Christmas, or even in the new year. So I am going to move this down because I wanted to show you a little bit about the Three Kings cake, okay? And it's going to be a little tough because I know this is a big, big cake. Actually, the Three Kings cake is bigger than this. This is a smaller one that I got. Normally, it's more oval, a little bit round, but I'll explain why it's in a ring and go more into in depth of this and when we celebrate it, because this week we'll be celebrating the Three Kings Day. Okay, so I'm going to move my camera down so that you can see the Three Kings cake, and I might have to move a little bit around because this is a big cake. I love celebrating this, and I can't wait to eat this with my chocolate. So we'll go into it. Okay, so you see the Three Kings cake here. It is round. In Mexico, what we call Dia de los Reyes is known elsewhere as Infany. It's celebrated on January 6th to honor the three wise men, or the kings. The holiday represents the day that the three wise men gave gifts to baby Jesus, or Jesus Christ. And then the day closes the Christmas festivity. It's also the day the people of Mexico exchange gifts. This is one of the things that we actually get really popular about. But what is Three Kings Day, you ask? During Dia de los Reyes, Mexicans serve rosca de reyes, which is king's cake. Rosca means wreath, and reyes means king. So I'm going to show you right here. The rosca de reyes has an oval shape. Remember, I was telling you this one's a little bit more round, but the traditional one is more big and it's oval. The shape is to symbolize a crown. And remember, I was telling you there's a small little surprise in this cake? Well, guess what? A small doll is inside this cake, which represents baby Jesus. The doll figure symbolizes the hiding of the infant Jesus from King Harold's troops. Traditionally, roscas are adorned with dry and candy fruits to symbolize many jewels. And you can see here, see the dry fruit on the cake. So they symbolizes the jewels that a crown would have. The person who gets the slice with the doll must host a party, usually in February, for the next party. And so even though Christmas might be over, it doesn't mean that the gift giving is, or even receiving is over. Children in many different countries, especially in Latin America or in Spain, receive the majority of their gifts from the Three Kings, rather from Santa Claus at Christmas. Before going to bed, remember I was mentioning, the children place their old shoes or even a shoebox with a wish list on top for the Three Kings. In the morning, the shoes are filled with toys and gifts from the Three Kings. So that kind of gives you an idea of the Reyes festivities that are celebrating in a variety of ways across the globe. So you can make this as well, or like in Houston, we have HEB Fiesta that sell these Three King cakes, and we will always find these. That's where I got mine. Mine's actually filled with caramel. And it is a delicious recipe to make. You can make this at home. The custom is whoever finds the doll hosts the party on February 2nd, which is another celebration. We can talk about that later. But that kind of gives you an idea of the Three Kings. And remember what I was saying as in the shoe boxes? The kids they usually get a shoe boxes or their shoes. They fill it with grass. And you're wondering why grass? Grass is for their horses or camels. Typically, we say the camels. So we put the food into the shoebox, which is grass, and we put it underneath our bed. And then that's when the Three Kings come. They actually serve the grass to their camels or their horses. And then the kings give us the gifts. And then we're excited the next morning as we find that the grass has been replaced with candy, and the kings also leave a gift. This is something that we celebrate all over. And I have so much fun doing this type of celebration. If you want the recipe to this, of the Three Kings cake, I'm happy to share that with you. I'm going to move my thing back up. And I know that this is something that we do all the time. And we get excited because each one of us will cut the cake and see who finds the baby Jesus or the little doll that's in there. So that's why we don't rush to eat the cake. We always look before we do that. I know in Louisiana, they do something similar. But this is what we do. And I love passing along this to my kids, as well as I hope my grandkids will pass this tradition that we do in our family. And then, of course, I'm going to show you my chocolate. My popular, I usually have hot chocolate, which this is my favorite brand, Popular. And I serve this hot chocolate. And we actually do a tradition with our hot chocolate. Typically, we will heat actually, they look like chocolate bars. I'm going to show you a piece. See, it looks like a chocolate bar. And this is what we have fun with me and my kids since they were little. I would get a pot, put some milk in it, and then depending, each one of these represents one person. So if I'm doing, there was 4 of my kids, I would always put 4 pieces of the chocolate into the saucepan with the milk and let it, heat up on the stove. Now we have a particular tool that we use and that we rub with our hands like this to make the chocolate soft. So as the milk is heating up, I'm moving my hands with this, and next time I'll bring it, you're probably looking like, oh my God, what is she talking about? But it's a tool that you move like this, and at the bottom it's round and it has rings, and it makes the milk froth, meaning it bubbles up, and then it also melts the chocolate that's in the milk. And then as you see it froth and you keep doing it, and then when you no longer feel the chocolate, it is time to serve the chocolate into our mugs. And so we have chocolate, which is this. Oops, I dropped my thing. And then we serve it with our King's cake. I hope you enjoyed the story time today, which is our book of the day that I had chose, which is the story of the 3 Wise Kings by Tome de Payola. He has written, I love this author because he's written a lot of books that I love and that shares my traditions in my family as well as in Latin America. And I hope you enjoyed why we celebrate the 3 Kings, which is January 6th, which is this Thursday. So I hope you can either make or buy yourself Rosca Reyes, King's cake, for your family. And then you can tell them why, what's the celebration. I always love the story about this and the symbol of everything of the King's cake. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have questions about it, you're welcome to reach me. My name is Miss Wendy at wendy@mpunion.org. I'm happy to share either the recipe for the cake or to share you the information about 3 Kings Day, as well as the book of the day, which is the story of the 3 Wise Kings by Tome de Payola. I love this book, and I hope you have too, and I hope you enjoy this beautiful story. And I hope that you were able to celebrate this Thursday, the 3 Kings Day. And you can look up the information anywhere on the internet if you're wanting more information about why we celebrate the traditions and the traditions that we do on 3 Kings Day. But I gave you pretty much the information. I rather share, my traditions with you so that you can enjoy some of your own traditions or even starting a new tradition in your home and why we celebrate it. And then now you can understand why you see Rosca Reyes in the stores if you do see them, or in bakeries. Some bakeries actually sell them. And now you know why. So pass on this information. Everybody have a great day. Feliz Año Nuevo. Happy New Year, everyone. And have a great day. Bye.